Well, a busy week for activist investors. A lot of stories. It's only Wednesday. Nelson Peltz losing a closely watched shareholder vote yesterday at Procter & Gamble's meeting. He is not admitting defeat, though, this morning. He's waiting for the certified vote results. Joining us right now is David Benoit. He is the activism reporter for the Wall Street Journal. And, David, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Where does Peltz go from here?
So, essentially, we have to wait. He's arguing the result as announced by P&G yesterday at the meeting that he lost shouldn't have been announced. It was essentially there are too many paper ballots. They're literally counting by hand out there. And so he's going to ask, they're going to go through a certification process, which could take weeks. Depends on how long. There are so many votes, and we'll see from there.
I think one of the interesting aspects of this, of Nelson Peltz and P&G, is that it's so predicated on the retail investor. So this was the largest campaign for an activist shareholder on record. Do you think the retail investor in those paper ballots could help push him over the victory line to actually get the board seat?
So it seems like he lost a pretty big chunk of, at least what we know is 7.5% of the stock was held by employees and retail people like that. He lost that, it seems like. The rest of the retail, we're not sure where it came in. It's probably not so much that it's going to push him over the edge as it needs to just be checked and counted. It's like a Florida situation here.
Okay, so he pretty much lost.
Yeah, but he lost yesterday, but he's been incredibly successful. Look what he was able to do with Dow and Dow Chemical and DuPont. I mean, he has been able to move enormous companies. Look at GE yesterday, right? The Procter & Gamble vote coming just one day after Peltz's Triumph Partners secured a seat on the board of General Electric. So this guy has been enormously successful in moving huge companies to do what he wants.
Yeah, exactly. And he's going to argue, even with the vote being it's so close, he's going to argue, and he already has. The shareholders spoke up here. P&G needs to change its structure. P&G needs to change its attitude to investors. And he's got the mandate that if P&G missteps, what happened at DuPont was he lost the vote close 2 years ago. They missed the earnings target they'd promised they were going to hit, and the CEO was fired by the end of the year.
Exactly. So he lost the fight, but he won the war.
Exactly.
In that one. What do you think, Dave?
Does it benefit your average individual shareholder, somebody who might even own shares of these companies through their mutual funds and their 401k plan, to make it clear to your retail investor why it's important?
So that's the big debate about activism, right? Is it good for the long term? I think the employee vote probably shows that employees are worried about activism still. It costs them jobs all the time. And that was
because they're cost cutting.
Exactly. That was an argument P&G made to the people of Cincinnati. The retail in the index fund vote is actually really interesting here. BlackRock and State Street appear to have voted for Peltz, while Vanguard, which is the biggest holder, went for the company. Those are the ones that argue we're here forever. We need long-term interests in mind. So if some of them are starting to go for Peltz, that's pretty interesting.
Which brings up another point, because you have these big fund companies, which are passive investors, actually swaying how the board is compromised. I mean, they're not actually supposed to be involved in the running and management and operation of these companies.
Well, these funds have massive teams inside now that handle these votes and think very
I was going to point that out, David, that these mutual fund companies, even though that they own these shares passively through index funds, they take these votes very seriously.
For sure.
And they have teams of people making decisions about which way they're going to vote.
Yeah, exactly.
And don't forget the ADP story with Bill Ackman.
Yep.
He did a retail investor call. So this is more about just institutions. I mean, the retail investors are on this.
Exactly. This is, and
he took his message.
It's different than a few years ago. Everyone ignored the retail because you assumed it wouldn't actually come out to vote. And if they did, from the activist point of view, it was almost always for management. There is a debate right now, and I think that helps when you see the stocks go up, right? Retail people see the stock go up when an activist shows up. Maybe they want.
So what is the activist strategy for getting those votes on his side on board?
It is a lot of phone calls, a lot of Facebook posts. It's really reaching out digitally these days and trying to make their points and
it's like
flashy
a political
graphics.
Campaign.
It's very much a political campaign.
But this is I mean, Honeywell, Dan Loeb is in there. You've got Estee Lauder. You've got, I mean, you name it. I mean, activists are all over at these big multinational corporations. I mean, you've even seen Warren Buffett come in when it came to Unilever, and then he immediately pulled away on that deal. But it's just pretty interesting that this is where the battleground is now, these large, big, bureaucratic, multinational corporations.
Just want to point out that the Journal did a report taking a look at the performance of the spin-outs. And in fact, the spin-out companies have outperformed the broader market. You keep getting success like that,
Yep.
you're going to want retail investors and institutional investors to actually say, yeah, we like the activists.
For sure.
Because they're getting outperformance. Thank you so much, David.
Thanks for having
Great
me.
to see you. David Benoit there from the Wall Street Journal.